Hey there. So, we ran into a little hiccup this morning in getting this up and running. I tried it the first time with the scheduled one. It just did not want to connect. So, I think you guys should be able to hear me now, right? What do you guys think of the audio? All right. Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys. So what I want to do is be able to do a Q&A with you guys. If you want to ask questions, you can feel free to answer them with each other. Before I actually get into the whole thing, I just want to point out, I do have my computer open right here, um, that Guppy Fish Enthusiasts has reached 30,000 members on there. So that's an exciting milestone. Wasn't expecting it to get that high that quick. So definitely excited for that. So if you guys haven't checked that out, or if you came from there, let me know. But if you haven't checked it out, you guys definitely should. It's a pretty good community over there. The other milestone is that we've also reached 10,000 subscribers on the channel. I remember back in the day when I started and I hit 150, that to me was a huge deal. How old am I? I just turned 26 recently. Thank you. I'm actually recording right now. I should point out that I'm not recording with my computer. I'm recording with my cell phone. I find that it's much easier to do that, but it's also my first video. So I'm going to say that as we go forward, um, that might change. Right now, the fish room is the way it looks right now, so we only have about these tanks. I'm sure you guys have been following and have seen that before. But these fish tanks will be changing because we should have a closing date really soon for our house, and then I'll be building a fish room. So dark tank, you mean the one all the way back here? All right, so that tank actually is an experiment. There is no filtration, so like these guys have sponge filters in them, but that back one does not have a sponge filter. It has a Santa Monica filter that I was sent from Santa Monica Filtration. What it does is it has like this red light that grows algae on the tank on the side of the wall, and then also grows algae in this box-like thing. So what it does is you could grow your own fish food. The reason I have that black part on there, that's just a regular sponge on there, is because this is also my bedroom, and that light bothers the hell out of me because it's on 24/7. You could run a cycle with it, having it on for some kind of hours and turn off for another, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to keep it on 24/7 to see how much fish food and algae I grew off of that. It has been growing, but the only problem with that tank is that there's also snails in it, and I think the snails are getting to the food much faster than I'm able to. Also, you're probably going to wonder why are these open. I have guppy fry in here that I want to move to a different tank, but the little guys like to hide in the back, so I'm waiting to see if they'll actually move up to the front so I don't have to destroy the whole tank moving them around. My dark blue shrimp are in there, and I don't want to mess with them. Have I ever thought about breeding mollies? Yes. Yes and no. So, one of the projects I wanted to do was see if I could hybridize as an experiment, of course, and never sell them to fish stores. You would not want to sell hybrids to fish stores. I'm not a big fan of that. But I did want to go and try um, mixing guppies with mollies to see if they would actually breed, because I have heard rumors that they do it. They can, but there hasn't been any documentation with it. So I wanted to try it just to see like if I could have a documented video of proof that it is possible or isn't possible. What am I going to do with the fish while I build the fish room? So these tanks are actually going to go to the new house. They'll be set up in there while I'm using them, while I'm still setting up the fish room. And then once the fish room is set up and ready to go, I'll actually take these guys down and most likely either sell them, keep them, I have no idea. The 30-gallon might actually become like an outdoor tub or something. That's actually really funny because someone just asked, are you doing tubbing this year? I was actually going to, but with the whole move, I don't think so. It might be by the time we're done in the house and doing that. I actually might set up the tubs. That's a good point. I might actually set the tubs up first because that might be easier than going in and doing the tanks inside. So that might be an option. But I plan on doing a 30-gallon as an outside tank. It is acrylic, and I can always drain it and everything. It's easy to move. It's not heavy like any of the glass tanks. So I'm reading the comments off of my laptop because they're not really showing up on my phone. So if I'm a little behind, there also is a small delay on this. Let's see. Answer that one. Answer that one. So Michael's Fish Room. This is from DS Smith 21. Michael's Fish Room. Uh, so this person said, "I love your small setup. In fact, you and Michael's Fish Room are what got me into building a small fish corner similar to yours." So Michael's Fish Room, Mike is awesome. He did actually comment on my last video, so you guys can check that out. And I always watch his videos. He's actually in the Guppy Fish Enthusiast group, and we go back and forth all the time. He's an awesome guy. He's freaking hilarious. So definitely check out his channel if you guys haven't already. So yeah, I'm giving you a shout out there, Mike, if you're watching. So Alexis asked, do you have any full red albino guppies, and where did you get them, or where did you get them? I actually started off, going back a bit, I used to have guppies, and then I moved away from them. I had Corridorus and Plecos. And then Glenn Hawkins, who, if anyone knows anything about Glenn Hawkins, let me know. He's one of the biggest guppy YouTubers I know, and I haven't seen him in over 10 months on uploading videos and haven't been able to reach out to him. But he got me back into guppies, and I started off with the full red albinos. I actually bought them off eBay. I had them for quite a while, and then met Guppy Train, and ever since Guppy Train, I've been keeping most of his strains, and now I'm actually working on my own. So, again, check out Guppy Train as well. Next one. If I miss anyone, make sure to comment again, because they do go pretty quick. Alex Ryder, what kind of lights do you use, and how much did they cost? Light. So most of my lights, I don't know if you guys could see this. So this is just an eBay light. Grabbed it really cheap. I think it was like 20 bucks, and then I just modified it a bit. So I threw it right up there. And then this light actually came with this tank. I did not like the way it worked because it just sat right up here. Kind of the way it is right now over there, but I used this PVC gutter stuff from Home Depot and created my own. And that came free with the tank. So lights, really pretty cheap. I like to do a lot of DIY stuff. I find it's cheaper, and it also meets my needs a lot better. So in the new fish room, you guys will definitely be seeing that. I'll be building my own racks. I'll be setting up the light system. All my tanks are going to be running off of that stuff. What's it called? The Aeration and I'm having a brain fart. A sponge filter. Next question. Let's see, where are we at? Do you go to any chain pet stores? I actually try to avoid chain pet stores. I'm not a big fan of the way they treat their fish and how fast, because their whole thing is make profit, make profit, make profit. We don't really care too much about the fish in the majority of cases. There are ones that actually do care about their fish, but I don't really go to chain stores. I'd rather stay in mom and pop shops. I'm actually pretty lucky that we have a bunch of them in our area. There's actually one, like a 5-minute walk from my house right now. If you saw a couple videos ago, they did have a fire though. So unfortunately I can't go there. So I don't really go too often. Can I explain my setup? Yeah, of course I can. So I've actually changed my setup, and I change it very often because I get bored very easily on the way things are set up. So I'll start off with the 30-gallon. So the 30-gallon has a matin filter right here with a small pump in the back. And what it does, it moves the water just down there. So what it does, it's sucking the water in this way and then blows it back out that way. So there's always a cycle going around. This is actually pretty different than a traditional matin filter that has the return up here and it just keeps the water going around. So I did change that part around, and this is my own kind of setup. And then back here I have the heater back there. And the reason I put that there is when I had Plecos, they used to suck onto the heaters and always have burns on them, and I did not like that. So I started putting them behind matin filters or inside of PVC pipes in areas where the fish couldn't get to. And I just continued that through. So that's something I just like to do just for the safety of the fish. I don't do that on those because those are just guppies and shrimp. These guys, whenever there's Plecos or Corridorus, I try to stay away. But right now, the tank doesn't have any Plecos. I do want to add them back in, but I will do that once we do the move. And then I also have a sponge filter. So this sponge filter hasn't been in here that long. I put it in here just to see if it would actually sustain this tank, and it really has been doing awesome. It's been about 3 months like that. And then I really like plants. I like to have the tanks heavily planted, but I keep them bare bottom. The reason I keep them bare bottom, it's so much easier to clean, so I don't have to suck up or clean any substrate. So I have the bare bottom tanks with Java moss and Java fern, and this stuff takes off, grows like crazy, and then the fry could hide in it. So that's this tank. I don't think I missed anything. And then I also have the Pothos. I love Pothos. Again, same reason, filtration. The root systems get very complex, and then it has a lot of hiding spaces for the fry. These tanks are all set up exactly the same, except for that last one that I mentioned before. But it is a small heater, a sponge filter, and then some plants as well. So they're all relatively the same. All right, where next? If I have any Bristlenose Plecos, I actually did in the past. I had a bunch of them. I had the blue-eyed ones, and I got those from my local pet shop. Usually, if you create a relationship with them, they can pretty much order any fish that you want. So one of the questions is, how long do I have my lights on during the day? I try to keep the lights anywhere between 8 to 10 hours. I don't do anything more than that because I don't want to grow any algae. So 8 to 10 hours is what I keep my lights at. And I just manually turn them on and off. It's really not that big of a deal for me because it's only 2 lights. But in the next fish room, I'll actually have them on a timer. And no, I don't use any CO2. This is just throw the plants in there, feed the fish, do my water changes, and that's it. Nothing really special. And that's thanks to Java moss. Java moss and Java fern are very low light plants, and they don't really require too much fertilizers just because they grow so slowly. Do I make any profit on my guppy breeding? Yes and no. I don't make any currently because I haven't been selling any of my fish. But in the past, when I used to sell them to my local fish store and I would sell them online. So I used to make profit all summer and all winter with the tubs outside. I've actually moved away from that for a bit because I want to set up my own breeding lines and have like a good platform to sell my fish and have like good quality fish. So I haven't been selling for a while, and I probably won't be selling this summer. But by next summer, the whole fish room should be set up. I should have all my breeding pairs and breeding population set up. So next year, I should definitely have more fish for breeding as well, for profit as well. So Flint's Fish Room asked if I know any places where I can get wild-looking guppies. Usually, you could find a lot of wild guppies on eBay. I've had no issues with ordering on eBay as long as you check that the person's a reputable breeder. And then the other way that I highly, highly recommend is getting it from hobbyists. So, again, promoting my own web page, but Guppy Fish Enthusiasts, I have the seller page. You can go on there and post that. If anyone has them, you can go on there. Adrian HD, he's also a member in the group. He's one of the biggest guppy breeders I've ever seen. He also sells a lot of the wild type and like endlers and stuff like that. Jason asked what happened to my female koi that I had left. She didn't make it. So this is one of the reoccurring issues that I've been having with koi guppies. I've never had issues with any other strain. Even albinos, I've never had issues with albinos. But the koi guppies are pretty relatively new, and they get inbred so much to the point so that you could get these strains and like characteristics in them that they just can't survive for some reason. They do very well. I've had them drop fry, but then they eventually just die so easily. And I think this is because they're so inbred, and they're also coming from out, so like in China, Singapore, places like that where their water quality is completely different than ours. The luck I've had with them is when the fish are born in my actual tanks, when the fry are born in my tanks and raised there, but they don't ever last long as all my other guppies. So I kind of moved away from them, and I'm going to wait until those strains are stronger and in the hobby a lot longer before I get back into them again. Floyd asks, what causes my female guppies to look bloated after they drop their fries? It may be my flake food. Bloated after dropping fry. The only thing I can think of is if they get dropsy from being stressed out. But that usually doesn't happen right away. I honestly wouldn't be able to answer that question. It's one of the hard ones. I don't think flake food would cause them to be bloated, but I would always try to stay with a good quality food. The only thing I can think of is if it's dropsy that would cause them to look bloated, or if you're overfeeding. Because I know I've had guppies, like male guppies, that overeat. Some of them are very gluttonous, and when they overeat, they get extremely bloated. Next one. DS Smith 21 asked if I plan to make my next fish room bigger and expand to different species. Yes, I actually do. So what I want to do is have four 10 gallons on the top rack, four 10 gallons on the bottom middle rack, and then maybe two to four 40-gallon breeders. And then what I want to do is have guppies on them, maybe get back into plecos as well, and then also have uh, I would love to have, what are they called? Angelfish, cichlids. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes there. When I get a little closer, it's a little hard to see the comments. So any tips for outdoor ponds for guppies? I'm trying to set them up with pond lilies and make them more natural. I've tried it actually, so I've done ponds maybe 3 or 4 years. I've done with filtration, I've done with just plants. So the plants, what I did is I put in water hyacinth and water lettuce, and the roots helped a lot in keeping the fry alive and keeping other fish from eating the fry. It also helps with predators such as birds, and I was also getting mice. Mice would come up to the water, and I've watched them like actually grab the fish. So the water hyacinth and water lettuce. Holding my phone makes it a little shaky, so I'm gonna try to see if I can hold it easier, or maybe find like a tripod or something to put on. But that helps from having predators as well. So I would highly recommend any of those plants. And then really just put some aeration in there. I don't even think you really need filtration, depending how large and if you keep the stock to a good level. Just aeration to keep the water moving. You don't have to feed too much because the mosquito larva becomes a perfect food source, and that actually makes the fish grow. The only issue that I've ever had with having guppies outside was once you bring them in and they're not in the natural sunlight, they tend to fade and not be as bright as they've always been. Am I working on special strains right now? So what I have is, so these yellow ones right here are a mix of my other ones. What I started off in all of these strains in here that I'm using right now, I had the Dumbo Ear Panda. I've had Dumbo Ear Red Dragon Mosaics, and I also had the Nebula Steel. These guys are one of my F1s as well, and they ended up looking more like the dragons with the yellow. So these are the females, and then I have a male back there who's more of a blue color, this guy up here, and he is, I don't know what he is. He looked like that might have been part of the panda or coloration that designed it. And then these females over here came out to be more like the Nebula Steels. They were huge bodied with long fins, long dorsal fins. So I decided to go with those strains and keep those instead. And then my male, this guy back down here, looks more like a panda, but his tail, even though it's a solid tail, like he's not a lyre tail, he is missing the color in the middle. So I want to work on that. I just fed them some algae wafers, so you have the snails coming out and all the fish and shrimp going for them. What is my favorite strain? So, I've actually seen the koi tuxedo. So they're black, red, and white. So right now, those are my favorite. I haven't tried getting them yet. I do plan on having them in the future when after the move. Right now, I'm just keeping my fish population pretty low, so it's easier for the move. But I do plan on getting them in the future. So we have a good turnout. We have about 27 people watching right now. So if you haven't said anything, drop a comment in there. I also do keep, I don't think I mention this very often, but I do also have shrimp. Like this female right here is one of my blue shrimp. And she's also buried. I don't know if you guys could tell. I'm a little close, but she has a lot of eggs underneath her. I actually started with the dark blues and then moved away. Thoughts on King of DIY? He is goals. That's where I would love to have my channel be. He does. He's been a pioneer in the hobby. He has one of the biggest fish rooms. He's in monster fish right now, which is awesome. He also has some of the smaller fish. A lot of his projects are very useful for everyone, even if you don't keep large fish. Those methods that he uses can be transferred over to the smaller tanks and the smaller hobbyists. So I highly recommend him. He also has, what are they? Beta fish for his kids, small things like how to do less water changes. I would love my channel to be at that level one day. His editing skills are perfect. Like, I don't know how this guy has all this time for this, but that is where I would like to be someday. Have I ever had any problems with my shrimp eating my fry? I actually have not. I think it really depends on what kind of shrimp you have. So like this tank right here is completely covered in shrimp on the bottom, some of those females. And then if you guys can see right there, that's a guppy fry. More shrimp in here. So what I do is any of the guppies I want to save from here, I usually will just take a whole bunch of them myself and leave all the others and drop them into these tanks with the shrimp, and they just all live together. I've hadn't had any issues with them, but I have read that some of the larger, like these are the Neocardina, I believe, some of the larger shrimp species. I just remember that fish is there. I have to move him into that tank over there. Some of the larger shrimp will actually catch fry. And this is, I don't know how confirmed that is, but this is rumors that I've heard from other people. But I myself have not had any issues with that. Flint's Fish Forum. If you had a 5,000 gallon, would you just fill it with guppies? Honestly, I would love to do that. That would be epic. I would say that would be totally epic. 5,000 gallons. Would I keep it with only guppies? I don't think so. I think I would have a majority of guppies, but then maybe throw some plecos in there. Just species that would be a good mix with the guppies. I've always had a soft spot for plecos, so I most likely would add those in there as well. If I missed your question, make sure to post it again, because they do scroll pretty quickly. Cole said that I inspired I got inspired by your videos and then got my own fish tank and some guppies. Now I have over 30 fry. What strain is that? Or are they mixes? Make sure to give up some details so we could all enjoy as well. How often do I squeeze out the sponges? Um, I do clean them often, but I do not squeeze them out. I might make a video on this. Uh, Squeezing out the sponges kind of break up the fibers and you get less of a lifespan out of them. So usually what I do is I would pump out one of these tanks into a 5-gallon bucket, then grab out the sponge filter, take that apart so it's just a sponge, and then you tap it on the side of the bucket. I've done that before and the water will turn completely brown. But that's pretty good. It's some of the debris in there and it's also some of the bacteria. You don't want to squeeze it just because you're destroying the fibers in the sponge filter. And by doing that, you're creating less of a surface area for the bacteria to grow on. So I recommend using old fish water to tap out any debris in it. That's all you have to do. And it doesn't have to be often. You'll know when the sponge filters have to be cleaned. They'll look clogged and the aeration won't come out through them as well. Can I dedicate a tank for Sailfin Mollies? I don't see why I wouldn't be able to do something like this. I'm not a huge fan of Mollies, but I would love to actually do a project with them sometime, even if it's just breeding a couple and then selling them off and trying a different species. The only thing with that is you do need a larger tanks, and mine are 5.5 gallons, so I can't really keep that many Mollies in there. Mollies do require more room than Guppies would. Cleaning out the matin filters, same process. Matin filters, though, since they're so large and they have a large surface area, like the guy back there, they really could go, from what I've read, I don't remember his name. There was one of a YouTuber, huge YouTuber, that used matin filters on all his tanks. He actually was one that encouraged me to use these. He said he went 5 years without having to clean it. The way it works is as one area clogs up, it just pretty much like self cleans itself. And really, if I had to go in and clean it, I would take it out and do the same process. Just tap it in old aquarium water just to clean out any debris. You really want to keep the bacteria though. Yes, DS Smith I do have. So these are 5.5 gallon tanks. I don't fill them up all the way, so I'm just gonna say that they're 5 gallons. So that half in there is just for air on the top, and then this is a 29 gallon. So I just call it a 30. It's so much easier than saying 29, but it's about 29 gallon tank. I'm not too familiar with Liberty Molly, so I'm gonna have to check those guys out. What shrimp would I suggest? I would suggest the red cherries or like any Neocaridina, any of the smaller shrimp types. So these are the ones I have right now are actually pretty closely related to the red cherries. They're just a different color variation. I did get these from Rob from Flip Aquatics. So I got these a while ago and I've just been breeding them myself. Started off with 8. I want to say now I have a couple hundred. Um, I wasn't that great at breeding them, so a lot of them did morph back to their original clear colors. But I do have these blue ones that are from the original, and I've been selectively breeding those as well, along with my guppies. Would I choose Petco or PetSmart? I really, to be honest, I'm not a fan of either. Nothing against them. I just don't like buying from wholesalers or large like chain stores when I go to a mom and pop shop and support them. I'd rather pay a couple extra dollars and support a smaller business than paying less and giving my money to something huge that goes to a CEO or those corporations. Would I be adding new guppy strains into my own strain? Yes. I'm going to see what characteristics I like, any ones I want to add or change or all that good stuff. So depending on other characteristics, yeah, I'm having mouth diarrhea right now. Characteristics, I might go back and add different ones in. How often do I feed the shrimp? So the shrimp, I don't really feed them very often. I give them the Hikari sinking wafers, so these guys, and then there's also, oops, the Hikari shrimp cuisine. So this I usually do in the morning, so once a day. The shrimp, other than that, they'll eat that when I feed them, and then the rest of the day you'll see them scavenging and foraging inside of the plants. So that keeps the tanks pretty clean. So TS Smith has a lot of really good questions. So this one is there any kind of issues to have brother sister breeding, or do you want to just keep guppies that aren't related, or does it not matter? It does matter because too much inbreeding starts to create issues if you're not breeding out any of those issues. But breeding brother to sister is a common practice, and also breeding like fathers to daughters, and that's interbreeding. So there's different kinds. There's line breeding, interbreeding, crossback. So I would highly recommend you guys look into those. I can, if you'd like, create videos in the future explaining the difference between all three or the breeding styles. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. Aeration to an outside tub. So this is one of the challenges I had, and what I did is I used, I don't know if you guys could see that very well. So that little, I think it's a Tetra air pump back there. I used that. So I added air lines. If you have a shed, put the pump inside the shed and then run the air lines out. Or what you could use is the tubs that the Chinese food come in. Put the air in there. So if it rains, it doesn't go directly onto the pump. So keep any electrical devices out of water, and then just run air tubes. So that's what I did. I put it inside a little Tupperware, allowed it so air could still get into it, but not water. So if it rained, it would just run right off. Do I add any fertilizers to my tanks? I do have Flourish XL that I bought years ago. Stuff is probably expired, so I still have it in my room. But I used to use that, and then maybe like 2 years ago I stopped, and I saw no difference in my plant growth. I just feed my fish and do the water changes, and all these plants grow really quickly. Oh yeah, I also do have a Nubius nana down there. I forget about that. And then the Nubius over there as well. But I don't really add anything special to the plants. So someone said that they bought a green cobra guppy male and died 5 days later. So that could be a lot of things. Did you acclimate him? Is there any water parameter difference from where he already was? If you're getting from chains, sometimes they're already not the youngest. So guppies live about 2 years, and I've noticed that when I buy from chains, or when I used to when I first started, they didn't last very long because they're already close to the end of their lifespan. Will I be uploading this video? Yes, I will. So this once we're done with this, I'll be uploading it. So Jason said that I inspired him to start his own guppy strain. He's waiting for his panda female to drop fry, and she was bred to an albino Japanese blue red tail male. I don't know if you have a YouTube channel or if you're part of the group, but definitely drop some pictures of those. I want to see what those look like. I'm very, very interested. I love seeing the crosses because really there's so many guppy, like pure guppy strains out there. And then when you mix them, you get even more. So I love seeing that kind of stuff. Grow outs. Do I only sell my grow outs to my local fish store? Yes. Usually I sell them when they're ready to breed, so about at 3 months old. Any fish I don't plan to keep and breed as my next line, I'll end up selling those to my local fish store. But then it also depends if I'm already doing like a established strain. So if I already have, let's say, like sunset microriffs, I think that's how they're pronounced. I've had those before, and that was a pure strain already. So those I just sold whatever I had and just kept them going. They were just the cash fish to be able to feed my fish. That was back in the day. Is it true that you can make fish food from duckweed? Actually, it is. I've never tried it myself, but I have read a lot of people what they do is they dry it out and turn it into like a powder type thing. Never done it myself, so don't quote me on that. But I have read that people have done it. I don't know of any ways to order guppy strains from Sweden. I would have you reach out to Guppy Train. He knows a lot of people in the hobby, and he might know someone that does sell there. If he can't get you the fish, or if he can't sell them to you, he knows a lot of people that will be able to help you out. So definitely reach out to him. When did I start my YouTube channel? Oh man, I can't remember. 2 years, maybe 2, 3 years. It's been about 2 years. Maybe longer. I'm gonna say maybe 2 or 3. At first, the first year, I think it was very slow. I only had a couple subscribers. I think I maxed out at like 150 the first year. Recently, it's when it has really taken off, and I think we're at 10,250. I want to keep going. I want to reach as high as I possibly can. I want to be able to provide you guys with different content. So this is one of the reasons I want to build a new fish room, change things up, add more content to it, reach out to you guys. So this is why I've tried the live streams to add something different where I could have everyone share with each other, and why I've also created the Guppy Fish Enthusiast group that has 30,000 members. So I want to continue to expand and grow the hobby and add new content into the hobby. So what do I do with my culled fish? To be honest, I don't really get too many that I don't like. So now the problem is when I have fry, some of them have like deformed spines, but I haven't had that happen very often. I think in the whole time I've been breeding fish, I've had maybe like 5 or so. There is proper ways to euthanize them before you like flush them or something like that. If you have a predatory fish like Oscars or anything like beta fish, beta will go after small fry as well. You could use them as a food source. Like I said, I really haven't had too many, and my only other culls would be ones I don't want to keep to continue breeding, and those I just sell to the fish store. And there's nothing wrong with those culls. They just didn't meet the physical characteristics or color that I would like. So what I do is, so local fish stores usually won't buy. So this is from Joseph. They won't buy high-end guppies. So if I have guppies that are worth $60, I wouldn't expect to get more than 5 for them because they have to make a profit as well, and they sit there and all that. So usually when I sell fish, it's ones that I don't really care or see too much of value in, and usually they just buy them for $1 a piece. But if you think about it, guppies breed like crazy. They drop fry every month. So if my fish are dropping 60 fry every month per adult fish, and I'm selling these, I can make $60. per drop, and that depends on how many females you're breeding. But it also comes to how fast can you have a turnaround. So if I sold 60 guppies to my local fish store, and there was no interest in them, they just sat there and no one bought them. So he's not going to want next month another 60. So you have to wait until they're sold out. If you get really nice colors, like Dumbo ears, really go really quickly. I've brought Dumbo ear guppies to my local fish store, and have him 2 days call me, hey, do you have any more? Those sold out really quickly. They were very popular. Then you could have a really large turnaround with those. I always sell them to my local fish store, and this is answering Santiago's question. I sell them to my local fish store, so make friends with them. Go in, talk to them, tell them like, hey, I do this as a hobby. I breed my own fish. What kind of strains would you like to see? What kind of fish would you like to see? Would you be interested in buying some? Sometimes they're like, yeah, why not? Bring in like 20. We'll see how they do. If they sell quickly, I'll get some more from you. If not, they usually are not that interested. But try it that way. I used to do my plecos, sell plecos to them. They used to go crazy with them because I had the blue eye yellow ones. If you're going to mix guppies with mollies, I would try to keep them in separate tubs. Don't put them together just because the mollies will eat your fry, and that would reduce your count. I would just say make it as heavily planted as you can. Make sure they're not fully in the sunlight because the water will turn green, which isn't a bad thing because the fry will actually eat anything that grows in the water. But you don't want the tanks getting too hot, so make sure you have a shade and sun cycle that goes back and forth. If you do have them in the sun, put in like water hyacinth or water lettuce because it'll provide shade and keep the water at a steady temperature. I also recommend, instead of having them above ground, what I did is I put the pond in the ground. The ground around it will actually keep the temperature pretty steady. When they're out of the ground, you have a huge fluctuation between temperature, so as much as 10 to 15 degrees from daylight to night. I'm trying to see what other questions I missed. Where do you get those cheap long aquariums? I'm not really sure which ones you mean. Are you talking about these guys? But these aren't really that long. Long, cheap aquariums. If you're looking for cheap, what I recommend is actually just buying tubs. So you go to Walmart, they have these like acrylic storage tubs. I would recommend those, or even like buckets or stuff. I've actually done that in the past, and they really worked very well. And yes, I do recommend also checking garage sales and Craigslist, like D.S. Smith mentioned. Uh, if you use Facebook, check out Facebook. There are seller groups. Like I know I belong to a seller group in my area, and there's always gallon. Like there was a 20-gallon tank there the other day. There's a 40-gallon. You see a lot of 10 gallons. And people get into the hobby, not knowing too much about it, and then they just quit on it, and they have to get rid of their tanks. Joseph said that he has fry for sale that are about 2 months old. How long should I wait until I bring them to stores? I say as soon as they have their adult coloration, so anywhere between 2 to 3 months. As soon as they're ready to breed, I start bringing them in. You want to bring them in young. When you do that, they have longer lifespan. So if people see the quality of them versus having fish that are like a year and a half, you're done breeding them. Now you're bringing the retired breeders in. People take them home. They either last like anywhere between 2 months to 6 months before they die, reach their max lifespan. That to someone else would look like a lower quality fish just because they haven't been there with the fish since the day they were born. When you take them in at 3 months old, you still have the whole fish's lifespan ahead of them, so that you have a high quality fish that you've had for a year and a half to 2 years. Um, I did mention before that I plan on keeping the same guppies, but then also adding other fish into there so I can expand the hobby as well. not too familiar with medications for guppies, so that I might not be the best person to answer that question. But if you post it in the Guppy Fish Enthusiasts group, we have with the 30,000 members there, I'm sure someone knows the answer to that question. What's the other one? Has it still been cold in the Midwest? Yes, it's actually been cold. We're here on the eastern side, and we haven't even had spring yet. We're almost in May, and just the other day it was in the 60s. Other than that, it's been snowing all the time. Can I show my face? I mean, I can. Will I? Probably not. It really depends. We'll see. If you look at my last couple live streams, my girlfriend and I were in Key West, and we did a dolphin tour. And we also did feeling tarpons by hand. If you check that out, my face is in it a couple times. How long can a guppy breed? So guppies breed every month, pretty much like clockwork. And you males, the thing is, as they age, they become they produce less quality fry. So females produce less quality fry, and same thing with males. Usually, I'll let them breed for 3 or 4 drops, and after that, I pretty much retire them because the more you overbreed them, you're gonna have sicker fry, weaker fry, and I don't really like that. So I'll let the fish breed the first, second, third, fourth time. After that, I retire them. Yeah, dropping from the 60s to 40s is a huge change for outdoor tubs. Guppies, I've had with experience, guppies can handle 50 degrees pretty well as long as it's not for a super extended amount of time. Um, as long as the days are in the mid to high 60s, they can temporarily drop down a little bit, but you don't want something crazy like that. I would wait until the temperatures are pretty much a steady, like in the 70s, and then once that is, that you're good. Like I said before, once they're in the ground actually keeps the tanks in a steady temperature. I hear a lot that I inspire people in the hobby, and it's something I really love to hear. Because one of my main goals with this is to expand the hobby and educate people, help them all out. All right, we're gonna start wrapping this up because we've been going on for about 42 minutes now. I want to start to wrap it up a bit. So, any last questions? Drop them in the comments. I also want to mention to check out Guppy Fish Enthusiasts, which is one of my groups. I also have my actual dedicated page on there, so you guys can actually send me private messages, and I can respond to your questions on there as well. All right. I also want to mention that if any of you guys have YouTube groups, what am I trying to say? If any of you guys have a YouTube channel, make sure to send me a message on my Facebook page. What I'm going to be doing, I already spoke to Mike from Michael's Fish Room. What I want to do is have you guys send me like a 2 to 5 minute clip of your channel, and I'm going to throw them in my videos as well. So you asked how many tanks should you have for one strain. The thing is, it depends on how you want to breed. You want to have a tank for there's a lot of different ways. So you could have tanks for the breeders, and then tanks for the fry. Then you have tanks for the grow out, and then you have tanks for the ones you don't want. So it really depends on what your goals are and how you plan on going about them. I've seen people recommend, so what I have right now is my large tank and all these small ones. So in a setup like this, what I would do is this will be my breeder tank where I keep my breeders in. These 2 tanks will keep the fry, and then this tank will be once they become a certain age to grow out. But now I would need another tanks now if I plan to selectively breed. Where am I going to separate my males and where am I going to separate my females? It really depends on what your breeding style is, because if you just plan on just breeding them and letting them breed freely, a 30 gallon is perfectly fine. 30 males and females in there, let them breed, whatever survives, survives. And everything else just gets eaten. I do see a lot of people from the Philippines, so that's awesome to see. So definitely a shout out to all my supporters out there. And I plan on having more of these in the future because it's actually pretty productive. We didn't have a huge turnaround, but I think I've had better. It was better than I thought it was. We reached, I think the max was like 25 And everyone was always had a lot to say, so that was awesome. All right, guys, so I'm about to wrap this up. We had a great turnout, I mean. So thanks all for checking out. Thank you for supporting Home Aquatics. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned a lot of new things. So thank you guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you on my next video.